Welcome to the Dr. Wyatt Show podcast. For developing a long-lasting, happy relationship is the status symbol to achieve, and following my tools is one path to help get you there. I'm your host, Dr. Wyatt Fisher, a licensed psychologist specializing in couples counseling. If you want to improve your communication so that you have more love and less conflicts, download my app today, Keep the Glow, KTG, wherever you get your apps. Also, be sure to click the subscribe button so you're notified of future episodes, and follow me on social at Dr. Wyatt Fisher. Do you have problems in your marriage feeling emotionally and sexually close? Well, a lot of couples do. Most low libido partners don't feel open to sexual contact because they don't feel emotionally connected. And most high libido partners don't feel open to emotional contact because they don't feel sexually connected. It creates the perfect standoff. And when emotional and sexual needs are not being met, couples start to wall off. And when you wall off, you start developing resentments. And then before long, you start feeling like roommates. And no one gets married to feel like roommates. The solution is my live virtual workshop coming up Thursday, June 20th at 12 noon Mountain Standard Time. This workshop is on 5 steps to improve your intimacy. We're going to go through the impact of emotional and sexual intimacy, the main roadblocks, and the main solutions. And it's only $29 per couple. The workshop is going to last around 1 hour, and there's even going to be live Q&A at the end. You're not going to want to miss it, so grab your seat today. Go to the show notes, click the link to register, and I hope to see you there. So today is part of our Tuesday call-in episode. This is where listeners can call in, leave a voicemail, and then I respond back to it on the next Tuesday podcast episode. So a voicemail came in. I'm going to play it for you right now, and then I'll respond back.
Hi, I really appreciate your comments about the low libido, high libido partner. But in my marriage, we are both now low libido partners. Early in the relationship, I was more of the high libido person while my husband was more low libido. But as we have gotten older, as we have been together longer, as menopause has set in, I am now also low libido, and part of that is out of defeat. How do we maintain closeness when neither of us is willing to try, I guess? I mean, I want us to be close, and I have seen gynecologists and physical therapists to try to make it more accommodating for it to actually happen. But I'm not even sure my husband has interest. So, yeah, I'm the woman who is the low libido partner, but who is married to a lower libido partner. Whatever help you can give would be very much appreciated.
So you can really hear the hopelessness in this caller's voice, and it's so sad to hear it. It's one of the worst feelings to feel like I desire my partner, but they don't desire me sexually. A lot of people get caught up in this. Normally, it is the other way around. On average, it's the husband who feels like, I desire my wife sexually, but she doesn't desire me. I want to feel wanted. And I think it can be even more difficult when it's a role reversal, because there's this association that all men want sex at all times. And therefore, if my husband doesn't want it, what's wrong with me? Why don't they want me? And so from my experience, roughly, I would say 10 to 20% of the time, it is a role reversal. And the female is the higher libido, the male is the lower libido. But again, because in our culture, there's such an association with men constantly wanting sex that when you're in a marriage where your husband isn't interested, it can be very difficult and devastating to your psyche emotionally. So I have a couple ideas I'm going to respond back to this caller with. And first thing I just want to say is, I feel your pain. I know how that can feel. I've been in that situation in my own marriage in the past where I wanted to be wanted. And my wife and I had a lot of sexual brokenness, and that was not healthy in our relationship. And we worked very hard for many years to get it to a healthier place. And we are healthier today sexually than we ever have been. But I know exactly how it feels to be in that spot where you desire your partner and they don't desire you. So I feel for you. So the first thing I'm going to say is a lot of people base their opinion on if we should be having sex or not on if they have natural desire for it. And that's a mistake because so many low libido partners have said, well, I'm just not interested in sex. Therefore, I don't want to have sex. Therefore, we're not going to have sex. That's a problem because you're married. If you're married to a higher libido person, then that approach doesn't work. That's like saying, well, I'm not interested in emotional intimacy. That's just not my natural desire. And it doesn't matter that you want emotional intimacy. You're just not going to get it because that's just not who I am. That also is not appropriate because you're a married person. If you're married to someone who desires emotional intimacy, doesn't matter if you naturally desire it or not, you have to work on getting better. You have to work on prioritizing it. You have to work on being sensitive to that need. When you're a married person, it's not just about you. It's not just about what you want and what you don't want. When you're a married person, you have to become more cognizant and thoughtful about what does my partner want, regardless of what I want. And that's the sign of a good partner when you're one eye in, one eye out. And that means I'm mindful of my partner's desires, their preferences, their wants, while I'm also mindful of my own. And I'm allowing those two sets of information, my desires and my partner's desires, to guide my decisions moment by moment in my marriage. And by doing so, I'm becoming a good partner because that is the definition of a good partner. Someone who is mindful of their own interest and their partner's interest, and they're allowing those two sets of variables to impact their decisions on how they show up in their marriage moment by moment. And so when I hear this woman talking about how her husband is lower libido, he's not very interested, she's feeling defeated, what that says to me is that her husband is two eyes in. And that means he's more focused on his interests, what he wants and doesn't want, and is not being mindful about what his wife wants, what his wife desires. So again, don't base your activity sexually on if you have natural desire or not. View it as any other need in the relationship. Your partner may have a need for affection, and that may not be your natural need. Your wife or husband may have a natural need for quality time. That may not be your natural need. It doesn't matter what your partner's desire is, what their fillers are. It doesn't matter if that's your natural desire also. Now, obviously, it's going to make it harder if it's not your natural desire also, but don't let your low libido be a reason why we're just not going to have intimacy because that is not fair. When you're a married person, you're signing up to be sensitive to your partner's needs, just like you want them to be sensitive to yours. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to become 100% everything your partner desires because it might be a little left-footed. You might have to work at it. It might be a little awkward. But if you're going to be a good spouse, all of us, we need to work at becoming better for our partner. So, for example, in my marriage, my wife loves to talk about feelings. She loves processing her feelings, and she wants me to talk about my feelings. And that's not natural for me. I'm much more left-brained and logical. She's much more right-brained and emotion-focused. However, through the years, she's given me feedback and she says, hey, I want to hear how you're feeling. I want to hear more about your emotions. And that's not natural for me. And so I have a choice. I could either say, well, tough luck. That's not who I am. Or I can say, I'm going to work at it. And so I've chosen to work at it. So when we do our head heart check in the mornings, we're starting to do it in the mornings now. When we're doing our head heart check, I have to take a pre-step and gather my thoughts. What have I been feeling and why? It takes me a moment because I don't live in my feelings. And I've chosen that path and intentionally done that so that I can then share my feelings because I know that's important to my wife. It's not been easy, but I haven't died doing it. That's what you do when you're married. You become mindful and sensitive about your partner's interest, their needs, and then you work at it to get better. And so that's the first thing I would say to this woman calling in is your husband should not be using his low libido as an excuse for not engaging with you sexually. Second thing is it's often not personal if your partner has low libido. And this is a struggle. So if you're high libido, you want to feel desired because to you, sex is this carnal, instinctual, passionate experience. And you want to feel like your partner's on fire for you because you're on fire. And when you don't feel that from them, it can feel deeply personal, like you don't want me in the same way I want you. And that's true, but that doesn't mean they don't love you. It doesn't mean they're being hurtful. It doesn't mean they're doing that to be insensitive. It's involuntary. That's like saying if you love chocolate and your partner doesn't really like chocolate, but you want them to desire chocolate the same way you desire chocolate, that's not going to happen. And so even though it can feel personal that they don't desire you sexually the way that you desire them, try to remember it's not personal. It's biological. Sex drive is tied to testosterone. So the higher our testosterone in our system, the more we desire sex and vice versa. And so it's not personal that they aren't on fire for you sexually. It's just how they're wired. So try to remember it's not personal. Third thing is like in all areas of marriage, striking a compromise is the goal. And so if you're higher libido and he's lower libido, the goal is how can we strike a compromise on intimacy? So the wife may want intimacy twice a week. He may not want it at all every week. So maybe the compromise is once a week. And so you got to think about what is the compromise here? And again, we're not basing this off of his desire is going to determine it or her desire is going to determine it because that's not compromising. This is a sharing power topic. Just like anything else, if we're talking about how much quality time to spend together, it's not what partner A wants or what partner B wants. We compromise, we meet in the middle. If we're talking about how to cultivate emotional intimacy and how often, it's not going to be what partner A wants. It's not going to be what partner B wants. We're going to compromise and meet in the middle. Likewise with sex. It's not the frequency that partner A wants or the infrequency that partner B wants. It's compromising and meeting in the middle. And so I would encourage you to talk to your husband about how this is a sharing power topic. We have to process through how we're going to meet in the middle on intimacy because that is going to be a compromise. That's going to honor some of what we both are after, and that's us being good partners. So you have to prioritize it, talk about it, and make it a plan of how often you're going to have intimacy that's going to be a middle ground between what you both want. Number 4 is discuss with your husband how to make intimacy more engaging. So if he is lower libido, talk with him about what could make our intimacy more engaging for you. Perhaps he would love to try different things and approach it differently, but maybe he feels like you're going to shut him down, or maybe he feels embarrassed to say what it is. Maybe he'd enjoy more foreplay, or maybe he'd enjoy, more cuddling beforehand, or maybe he'd enjoy more variety. Maybe he's bored. Maybe he'd enjoy some role playing or outfits to make it more novel. Who knows? But you want to cater the sexual encounters to what would be most engaging for the low libido partner because they're the ones you're trying to increase their enjoyment of that experience. So you want to cater to the low libido partner. You want to talk to them about what would make it better for you. What would your ideal sexual encounter look like? Scene by scene. What would you like to try? What would you like to experience? And really try to cater to that because that can really do wonders. Because often low libido partners aren't very interested in sex biologically. And then when they do experience sex, they don't really enjoy it because it's all about their high libido partner and what they want. So instead, shift around that dynamic where the sexual encounter is all about the low libido partner and what they desire, because that can make them more engaged and that can make them desire intimacy more often so that they develop a positive association with intimacy. Thank you for listening to the Dr. Wyatt Show. If you enjoyed the episode today, be sure to click the 5 stars and leave a review. And be sure to give me a call and leave a voicemail 24/7 with your marriage questions. Call me at 303-578-0618. Leave a voicemail with your question, then I'll address it on the next Tuesday episode of the podcast. For more resources, go to my website, drwyattfisher.com. And remember, your marriage is alive. If you care for it and nurture it, it will grow. If you deprive it and neglect it, it will wilt and die. The choice is up to you. Take care.